Hello and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Is this the end for USDC? Well, there's a lot of hysteria coming out on the back of some news about Silicon Valley Bank collapsing, which has led to some cause for concern as Circle, the creators of USDC, held some reserves at the bank, and so clearly they were customers, and following this collapse, it looks like they may be due to lose money. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly read just a part of the article, not the full thing, just so we get an idea of this, and then we'll read what Circle have written, and we'll get down to this. Overall, just before we do this, I will say I don't think this is going to cause the end for USDC. You'll see why further as I get into the article. But no, I don't think this is going to be the be all and end all, to be honest. But I will say this. It just makes me realize how hypocritical the SEC are, right? Because, you know, when I look at this, what's going on now with Silicon Valley Bank, I look at how, you know, they're collapsing and how they're, you know, from what I've read, it looked like they was basically trying to hide the fact that the bank was failing. And what does that remind you of in crypto? It reminds you of a rug pull, right? Where a crypto company comes out, they release a coin, you know, the coin's not doing so well. They start to drain as much money out of it as they can and jump off the sinking ship, which very much sounds like what's happened here. And so, you know, the SEC are so adamant that, you know, we need protection and stuff like this. But look at the type of money that people are going to lose through Silicon Valley Bank. So it just shows you that they're being very hypocritical here, you know, in the way they're acting. But let's get into the article. Inside Silicon Valley's bank's collapse as chief begged tech giants not to panic. So, when on the brink of a crisis, it is rarely good advice to plead with people not to panic, but that is precisely what Greg Becker did. Quote, "My ask is to stay calm because that's what is important," unquote, the chief executive of Silicon Valley Bank told the tech industry bosses in a private call on Thursday. Quote, "We have been long-term supporters of you. The last thing we need you to do is panic," unquote. The plea did not have the intended effect. Silicon Valley Bank, the lender to the artificial intelligence startups and fintech giants of San Francisco Bay Area, fell victim to a very analog phenomenon, the bank run. Okay. So again, the bank run, right? What happened with Binance when people were worried about Binance not holding the correct reserves? People did a bank run. You know, they was trying to withdraw their funds because they was worried that Binance was not going to have the capital to give everyone their money. And that's exactly what's happened here. And this is the thing, just a quick FYI. Banks are actually legally allowed to have fractional reserves. And what that basically means is they don't actually have to hold the full amount of money that they actually have for all customers. So long story short, what I'm basically saying there is if every customer of a certain bank wanted to do a bank run, the bank wouldn't actually be able to handle it. They're legally allowed not to be able to basically hold the full amount of funds that they actually hold for a customer. So what would happen is if it was to turn out that they were to have a bank run, they would actually be allowed to temporarily disable withdrawals and payments, right, for their own safety, for fear of the bank collapsing. So don't get me wrong, there is more things in place with regards to security in the financial banking sector, but it still shows that these things can happen, right? Because this is the other thing. You know, they'll be able to temporarily suspend payments, but if the bank's on the brink of collapse, it's going to happen. And this is going to still lead to customers losing money, right? People are still going to lose money due to this collapse. So no matter how we try and hide it or spin it, people are going to be affected by this, the same way people will be affected by crypto. So, you know, it just makes me realize with the SEC that, yes, you know, I'm not necessarily disagreeing that regulation is needed, but the way they're just making crypto out to be like the complete, you know, worst of the worst, when this is clearly happening and on a much bigger scale within the legacy banking system, it just shows me the hypocrisy of them. But anyway, let's get into Circle's tweet. So Following the confirmation at the end of today that the wires initiated on Thursday to remove balances were not yet processed, 3.3 billion of the 40 billion of USDC reserves remain at SVB. Like other customers and depositors who relied on SVB for banking services, Circle joins for continuity of this important bank in the US economy and will follow guidance provided by state and federal regulators. So, there you go. And afterwards, they've just said, reminder, to make up for the negative market sentiment, USDC holders are invited to participate in the USDC gift distribution. Claim is live for the next 12 hours. So that's them trying to, uplift people, because I'm sure a lot of people are worried about this when they see this. So as we just saw, we saw the amount. It was 3.3 billion of 40 billion. So, they've got plenty of money. So I don't think this is really going to be a huge loss to them. Obviously, a loss is a loss, but in the grand scheme of things, they've still got a lot of money. So this isn't enough to kind of completely shut them down. But the one thing I will say about this is, the thing about stuff like this is it actually causes problem with loss of trust, right? So the problem is it could affect their business in the sense of, okay, well, USDC was banking with SVB. SVB is on the brink of collapse. So let me just get out of USDC just in case, because I'm a bit worried. So let me just go into Tether or some other stablecoin. So it's not necessarily just about the money that they've lost from the bank, right? It's about the negative sentiment that it puts on them and the way people think about USDC going forward. All right. So although I will say this isn't the end for them or anything like that, I do think it's not the best of news for them to have. But I think if you just read the full thing and not just get caught up in the hysteria of SVB going into collapse, if you can just look past that and just read the full thing on Twitter and see what they're saying, it's not something that's going to be enough to take them out of business. But I do think it will have a negative impact on them. I do think they will have a bit of a loss of trust from customers from this, unfortunately, even though it's completely out of their hands. I don't blame Circle for this at all. And luckily, from what it seems, they have spread funds around other banks. So I don't think they're solely reliant on this bank, which is clearly a good move, evidently. But, it is a thing where people get scared, and it's just like with, when you have like the bear markets and things like this, and, that you get the average retail investor who they hear negative news and they just panic sell. They don't really think about it or take too much information. They just hear the headline and that's enough for them to be like, oh, it's negative, I'm out, and they'll just sell. So I do think there will be a knock-on effect, but I don't think this is going to be enough to take them out completely, no. I think they'll be fine in the long term. This is, again, as I said, with the H-bar thing, it's like a bump in the road, It's something that they will get over. Who knows, maybe they might be able to get some of the funds back because, normally in this situation, they'll go into like liquidation and stuff like that. And they do try and get as much money back to as many people as they can. Whether that's likely, I'd probably say not, more than likely. Because usually when they're in this kind of situation, they're normally in over their heads, right? So there's not going to be that much money left, I would assume, especially if they've been trying to like hide the debt that they're in, the problems that they're in. So I would think more than likely there won't be much to give at that point. But yeah, I think overall, not the best of news, but I don't think this is going to affect USDC. But what do you guys think? Do you think this is a lot worse? Do you think there's more bad things to come? What do you think this could lead to? Could this lead to a bear market from further decline of crypto because more negative news, more negative sentiment? Let me know your thoughts, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And if you did like this, please remember to drop a comment, like, and subscribe. Until the next one, take care.